Well. Hey, we got a new one, boys. We got a new one. It's philosophy tube. Jordan Peterson's ideology. Okay. This, by the way, inaugural video from Philosophy Tube, and also inaugural video. I actually have seen some of this channels, because I think there's different people that come in. I don't know. I've never seen a full video. I'm not gonna lie to you. Maybe I should watch more because I'm actually finding it much more interesting now. At the time that I had originally saw it, I didn't think it was really that interesting. Damn, there's some processes going on in my body right now. Jesus Christ. Excuse me. But yeah, when I had first seen the videos, I did not think that they were that crazy interesting. They didn't really catch my attention, but now looking at them, I'm like, I might have to check some more of these out, maybe try to make a reaction video to them a little bit. Of course, in terms of how you react to this, it's like any other video on the channel, right? It's more of like, also like me giving my opinion, because of course there's no like shocking thing that's gonna happen here. That's you're gonna see me laughing, you're gonna see me get jump scared or something like that. So this is more, like just watch it with me, and I might pause it here and there, give my opinion, give my take. So I don't want to just sit here stroking my sheet like here, like these, right? I'm gonna sit here like, this is philosophy we're talking about here, right? I'm gonna sit here like these. But this is a video that was recommended to me by a viewer, right? Saw it in the comment section. I said I'd react to it, so here I am. Let's go. 35 minutes though, so let's get right into it. Let's not waste any more time because this video I cannot have this go that long, and I need to repeat that over to myself. Okay, I got yogurt right here. Okay, we're ready. I got brand new protein shake. Okay, brand new flavor. So if it's ass, you're gonna see the look on my face if I think it's ass. We even got some green tea here. You know what I mean? Okay, let's go. I even got a new keyboard too, so that I could use the I button and the space bar, and I could actually type, so.
Hello, and welcome to Philosophy Tube.
Hello.
Tonight's performance is about ideology. What is it?
What did I click?
And where does it come from? As a case study, I'm going to be looking at the work of Jordan Peterson.
Sorry, ideology?
And where does it Philosophy Tube? Tonight's performance is about ideology.
Okay,
ideology.
What is it?
And where does it come from? As a case study, I'm going to be looking at the work of Jordan Peterson. But before the show begins, I'd like to say that at no point am I going to insult him, call him a bigot, speculate about his private life, or crack low-hanging jokes about lobsters. My show is about having fun and staying open to new ideas. And although Peterson and I would
I know what she says that because he had that conversation with that one feminist chick, right? He was like, I know my neurochemistry. Okay, it totally relates with the whole serotonin and the chemical shits. I know my neurochemistry. It relates, right? Because lobsters, they get more confident or more courageous, whatever the fuck it is, right? So that's one of the rules in his book. She's gonna talk about it. His book, The 12 Rules for Life, which kind of put him on the map, right? An antidote to chaos. I've seen the summary for it. Don't really read whole books. I don't really have time. I usually just like read summaries and like and shit like that, and like I'll see the like actions for them. I have apps, right, where I get my stuff. Let's go.
A number of very important
I like that she's being.
I'd like to start
not gonna
off in the
judge
right
my
spirit
mates
by saying that his new book, Beyond Order, is genuinely pretty good.
I believe her.
There's a small chance that Peterson himself is in the audience tonight, in which case, welcome to the show. In the event of a fire, please refrain from shouting fire.
Dude, if he's watching this, I would love to see his reaction. I would love to see a live reaction from Jordan Peterson to this. This would be sick.
Crowded auditorium.
He's probably mentioned it before, because this video is kind of old. It's like a year old.
But instead, make your way calmly to the exits, which are located on the far left. And please remember, there is no smoking allowed in the theater.
I love it. I love it already. Why didn't I watch more of this? I already like it. I like the theme, right? The theater theme going on here. Love that. Okay, Abigail Thorne.
Jordan Peterson is a Canadian clinical psychologist and public intellectual, author of 12 Rules for Life, the 2018 smash hit that made him a household name. The subtitle for 12 Rules was An Antidote to Chaos, And in the marketing and the hype and even the foreword to the
Multi-million
book, it was
copy.
billed as a way of achieving objectivity. The pitch was...
Oh, I've been watching too much Philosophize This for me to even, like, know what to think about objectivity. Like, shit has just kind of fucked with my whole entire, like, bearings of what I thought I knew about subjectivity and objectivity. It's just like, can you even really get to objectivity? I mean, everything that you are is, like... the shit, right? Like the existentialist said, well, you know, you have freedom, but it's freedom within a cage, freedom within your facticity. Everything that you believe is in a sense, your facticity, right? A lot of what you are is, and the structuralists even went further than that and say that, like, pretty much all that you are is just the systems that you were born into, right? Like your culture, the people that you grew up with, how your parents treated you as you were growing up. I sound like a broken record because I said this yesterday, but I don't even know how to feel about objectivity and subjectivity anymore, bro. I don't know what is what anymore. I don't know what is what. Like I'm listening, and I'm seeing the philosophy like being taught to me, and I'm seeing it all unfold in that podcast, and I'm losing it. I'm losing my mind. Okay, I don't know what is what anymore. I don't know what to believe. There's no case of believing anything, but I don't even know what is like true or reasonable, I guess.
Society has become too relativist and nihilist, and it's all the fault of these postmodern neo-Marxists. We've lost our values, but here comes Jordan Peterson, and he's going to sort it all out. Now, as a pitch, that's quite philosophically muddled. And 12 Rules was criticized for failing to achieve the objectivity it was striving for, and for making a number of leaps of logic that favored right-wing political positions.
Of course, he's a very traditional man.
Things have changed a bit since 2018. Peterson has been on a nightmare odyssey through the medical system, and he's been catapulted into the limelight as a public figure. Neither of those are easy things to do, believe me. And now his new book, Beyond Order, contains a subtle but very important philosophical shift. Peterson is now doing a very interesting kind of philosophy called phenomenology. Phenomenology is famously
that which comes from Immanuel Kant. No, it doesn't. Well, no, Husserl. No, I'm getting the names mixed up. I don't remember anymore. It's basically that. The subjective way that you see things, right? Things as you see them in comparison to things as they are, as they say. But it's like, is that as they are? Does it even exist? Or how do you know what is just as it is? Just the type of philosophical questions they ask.
Very simple. To understand it, let's read a passage from philosopher Edmund Husserl.
Okay,
Immediate
Husserl.
seeing, sehen, not merely the sensory seeing of experience, but seeing in general as primordial data consciousness of any kind whatsoever, is the ultimate source of justification for all rational statements.
What the
It
fuck?
has this right-conferring function only because and insofar as its
What is going on?
objectivity is primordial.
What the fuck is
This
happening
world
here?
is not there for me as a mere world. Okay.
Okay, my God.
Let's do an example.
Yes.
Phenomenology is all about focusing on what you experience. So check this out. So just go for a little walk around me, and you at home, keep your eyes on the couch, okay?
Okay, I'm not looking at the couch. Okay, I'm looking at the couch now. Keeping my eyes on the couch.
Now then, what did you just experience? Did you at any point see the entire couch? No, you didn't. You can only ever see one side of it at a time. And yet, in your mind's eye, you weren't going, there is one side of a couch, there is another side of a couch. In your mind's eye, you experience it as one complete thing. And more than that, you experience it as being for something. It's a couch for sitting on. It looks comfy or ugly or whatever. Maybe it reminds you of a similar couch that you've seen. Maybe you'd like a couch like this one.
Don't think I've seen
Maybe
that
you'd
one
like to do
before.
something on a couch like this one. So
like
your
to do something.
experience of it brings in bits of the past and bits of the future and
sleep.
desires and values. This is a very different way of looking at the world than a scientist or a computer might. Peterson actually gives a great example. Imagine you get an envelope.
Then a what?
Computer.
A scientist, please. The whole check your biases at the door. You can only check the biases that you are aware of. Okay? Can you ever be fully free of biases? No, you cannot. Okay? I'm sorry. And we're also, I mean, we are information processing systems, but we're not necessarily, well, let me shut up. I mean, somebody could make an argument that we're just like a computer. I don't know anything, okay?
Might. Peterson actually gives a great example. Imagine you get an envelope with some important news in it. Scientifically, objectively, the envelope is a rectangle of paper and it has ink molecules printed on it, but that's not how you experience it. This envelope contains your past, your future, your test results, maybe the rest of your life. You experience it not just as an object, but as something with values and meaning. I can see that you're still a little bit shaky on this. It is a bit weird, so let's do something really cool and apply it to people.
Okay.
In fact, let's apply it to me.
Alrighty then.
For those who didn't realize already, I am a transgender woman, and when I
Okay.
first started transitioning, I would go out into the world.
I couldn't have probably told you that I would have known that. I would have been fooled. I don't know. I didn't know that. Basically, is what I'm saying. Let's keep going.
World dressed how I like to be dressed, and transitioning, I would go out into the world dressed how I like to be dressed.
Okay.
And some people would see me and they would think, well, that's a man, but by the way that they are dressed and their mannerisms, they are indicating to me that they would like to be treated as a woman. And if they were very polite, they would go, hello, miss, how can I help you?
It is
And if
kind
they
of
were very rude,
sometimes.
they'd say something else. But after a while, something interesting started to happen. People didn't have that initial experience and then have to think about it. They just started recognizing me as a woman. Something in their brains, or maybe in me, flipped. And they just started going, hello, miss, how can I help you? This is similar to, but not the same thing as, passing. Passing is when a cis person doesn't realize that you're trans. I'm not talking about that. Because I have trans friends who I know are trans. They don't pass to me. And yet, I just experience them as the gender they are. If you've never known a trans person, it might be hard to get your head around, but I have an old friend who's a trans woman, and a while ago she asked me, have I ever done anything in front of you that you thought made me look like a man? And
I
said,
can't.
"No."
I've never had a trans friend. Don't think so. No, but so I'm not saying anything because I can't say anything. I would have probably put in my 2 cents by now, but I can't because I don't know anything about anything. So I can't necessarily speak on this because, like I said, I don't really have much of an experience with trans people. So I'll just let her take it away, right?
You kind of can't, because my brain has flipped now. If you do something stereotypically masculine, like burp or fart or scratch your ass, I don't see that as, oh, there's a man. I experience it as a woman doing something stereotypically masculine, and therefore it's funny to me. Husserl talked about immediate seeing, Edith Stein talked about an experience being primordially given, but the bottom line is I just experience you as female. And this opens up all sorts of questions like, do people recognize me as a woman because I am one, or did I become one when they started recognizing me as such?
It's a good
Is
question.
gender something
both.
in you, or is it a relation between you and other people? If a tree falls in the forest and nobody's around to hear it, what are its pronouns? Answers on a postcard, please. The bottom line for us and
It's
Peterson
both.
is...
You just on that duality, isn't it? Like you're one. You need to also like identify yourself as a woman, but also in a sense, you'd say that you can see the value of other people also seeing you as such and considering you as such. Therefore, if you got both sides of the duality on the same page, then there you go. You are a woman, okay? And it's like, if you only have one of those, then on one aspect of, like, on one half of that duality, you are technically a woman, right? But a lot of what you are kind of has to depend on what other people call you. Like, I don't know if necessarily gender falls into that, but for example, if I wanted to tell somebody about myself in a super oversimplified way, like, I am a nice person, I am a kind person, I am a hardworking person, I am a good leader, I am a good father, right? If I wanted to say one of those things, right, like, good, like, but that's where it is, right? Like, good father. Okay, we'll go with kind, because it's not we're not getting that value thing of good. Let's go with kindness. I could say I'm kind because I carry myself in a kind way, and I try to be kind because I realize that being kind is something that I like to do. Maybe I think that it's a good thing to do, right? But if other people do not consider me as kind, if my best friend Felipe, he sees me as a fucking dickhead, if he sees me as an asshole, if he thinks that I'm just a fucking jerk and that I just have my head so far up my own ass and I'm unkind, right? If he thinks that, then who's right? Am I really kind just because I claim to be? Right? Would you consider me kind? Would somebody, like, looking at me from a third person perspective be like, well, my not hypothesis, my fucking, the shit that I've come down to, right? My answer to this is, my theory on this is, you must be kind or you must not be kind, right? For whatever reason. I think both of the dualities need to be there, I think. Because, I mean, you are just as much a subjective individual as much as you are somebody who is a part of a society, right? It's that duality right there. And let's keep it going.
We experience the world not as a collection of facts and observations, but a collection of values and meanings. We are always, in Peterson's language, telling ourselves a story.
Yes,
and if you're very clever, you'll already have spotted, oh, that's why he does all the self-help stuff. Peterson's always talking about being mindful of what you pay attention to, what story are you telling yourself, and phenomenology is a great base on which to build that. Because in theory, if you change the story you tell yourself, change the meanings you see in the world, then you can change the world. This week is the 1 month anniversary of the Lewisham arson attack. 1 month since an unknown arsonist savagely took the lives of 5 people.
This latest arson attack is no excuse for woke nonsense. This week is 1 month anniversary of the Lewisham... Oh, she's reading it.
And a homeless man. And now another building has burned down in Hackney. It's terrifying. And almost as bad as the fires themselves is the anti-fire hysteria that has been conjured up in the minds of the woke left cancel mob. I think wokeness has gone absolutely mad in this country. My brother is a smoker.
Okay.
He's always coming home smelling of smoke.
Uh-huh.
And he has to stand outside to smoke a cigarette because you can't even smoke indoors anymore. It's anti-fire wokeness gone mad. And I'm not a bigot. I'm not.
A bigot?
My niece is a transgender.
Okay.
And I think that is fine. She's in the fire department, and with this ongoing arson crisis, we have to support our emergency services heroes more than ever. Personally, I think her decision to join the fire department might have had something to do with her marriage falling apart, but I support her right to choose. Or his right to choose. It's so confusing. Biologically, he is still a she, because she can still get pregnant. And objectively, that's been the job of women since Victorian times. So I sent her a message for International Women's Day, and she gave me this big lecture. And I said, darling, if you're really a man, then what you're doing is mansplaining. She said I shouldn't even speak to my brother. She said he's the arsonist because he's always smelling of smoke and he's always going into people's houses with large barrels of petrol. And I said, darling, that's cancel culture.
Is it really?
He's a traveling petrol salesman. Of course he's going into people's houses. What kind of a world are we living in?
Not a real thing. Is there such a thing as a traveling petrol salesman? That's sick. That's sick. I hope that man is making a lot of money. Because selling petrol, that is no easy job. You know how hard that must be to go around selling people, convincing people that they should buy your petrol? My God. That's
working, upstanding, handsome man. Gets a...
wait, what did the subtitle say? Chopin's Nocturne Opera Number 9, no, Opera 9 Number 1 plays a falteringly like a canary that doesn't realize it's in a cage.
Man gets accused of something nefarious just because he is always going into people's houses with large barrels of flammable liquid during an ongoing arson crisis.
Shit, I feel like I missed that. That was such an allegory for. That was something. There was something hidden. There was multiple meanings to that. I feel like I missed one of the meanings there. I feel like I missed what they were going for there.
Okay, we understand the bones of Jordan Peterson. We experience the world not as a collection of facts, but a collection of values and meanings. Now let's build out to the muscles of Jordan Peterson and talk about structuralism.
Structuralism. I was just learning about this yesterday.
Very simple. To understand it, let's read a passage from philosopher Roland Barthes. A signifier can have several signifiers. This is indeed the case in linguistics and psychoanalysis. It is also the case in mythical.
It's that symbiosis thing, right? Or is that not the right thing? Yeah, a signified can't have multiple signifiers, right? And what follows from that immediately is that, well, how do you know a cow is a cow? What is the word cow, those three squiggly lines on the paper? What do they have to do with the actual thing that it's describing, aka that animal out there in those pastures called a cow that's black and white, that can get you milk, that you can squeeze its nipples, right? That cow. What does the three squiggly lines on the paper have to do with that cow? Well, nothing. We just chose that that was gonna be what is gonna mean cow, right? That's the word that's gonna signify the cow, aka that's the sign. No, that's the signifier for the sign. I think I said that right. And basically, how would we know what a cow is in relation in terms of signifiers? How would we know what a cow is? And that it relates to a cow is in relation to everything else in the system of language, which is, we know it's a cow because of its relation to everything that is not a cow. We know it's a cow because it's not a cat, right? Or whatever, something like that. And because of structuralism, you know, existentialists and all of these motherfuckers, a lot of them shits was being questioned about the validity of their claims because of how structuralism focuses on like the bigger structure and how everything's a part of the bigger structure, and it focuses on so like personal subjectivity and talking about what the meaning of life, blah blah blah, freedom and all of this shit kind of starts to seem a little bit nuller, maybe losing its value a little bit when you think about the fact that, you know, human beings are also a part of a larger system, right? We're just individual parts of a grander whole, grander system. Doesn't mean that we don't have subjectivity. It's just that our subjectivity is in a lot of ways influenced by the system that we are a part of.
It has at its disposal an unlimited mass of signifiers. I can find 1,000. Okay. Well, I'll give you the easy version. Structuralism started out looking at texts and saying, hey, don't these seem to fit into patterns? Like Joseph Campbell's Hero with 1,000 Faces. Supposedly there are these proto-myths that keep coming up in our stories again and again. Peterson's always talking about this stuff. He's always analyzing Disney or Harry Potter and saying, oh, hey, you know, this symbol is actually a very old thing from ancient whatever, and if you learn these maps of meaning that structure your experience, then you can start taking control of your life. In order to understand the meaning of the text, we have to look at other texts. By the way, text here can mean a literal text like a book, but it can also be a play, a film, a comic, this video, an interpretive dance, basically anything that can carry meaning. So then the structuralists were like, well, what if, as well as looking at the other texts, we also looked at the broader ideas that are hanging around in the culture? Like, for instance, there's this bit in the Bible where Jesus says, "Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and render unto God what is God's." And if we want to understand the meaning of that, then we should probably read the rest of the Bible, yeah. But also, what was the Roman occupation of Judea like? What did Caesar really mean to those people back then? Could be good to know. Let's take another example. There are some recent adverts on the London Underground recruiting for the Metropolitan Police, and a lot of them show an officer of colour in uniform smiling. Now, on its own, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. But the fact that the Met is about 90% white, and the fact that there are ongoing demonstrations in this country against police racism and brutality maybe tells us something about what they are trying to communicate.
Yes, things have multiple meanings.
The real meaning of the text, or at least one possible meaning of it, is given by something that is not...
Multiple signs for one signifier, or multiple signifiers for one sign. I don't know what it is. For some reason, my brain can't comprehend which one it is. But, yeah. Stephen West talked about it. I get what she's getting at.
Present in the text itself. Basically,
anything can be
meaning
mythology.
Is
like Fox News. Mythology right there. You're getting your mythology from Fox News. It's mythology. You don't think it's mythology? Motherfuckers think we're gone with the days of the old and thinking about Zeus and Hades and Poseidon and Persephone, whatever the fuck. Gone are the days of the old when they used to try to make sense of the world using mythology and fake gods. And Zeus is mad at us when it's raining, and that's why there's lightning, because Zeus, he is mad at us. And then we're going to sacrifice our kids to try to appease the gods, which they actually did. They've actually done that. People have most definitely sacrificed a lot of kids throughout, in the old days. And you think we're maybe past all of that mythology stuff, but no, the mythology is just different. The signs are different. But you get your mythology from, everything. Social media, the news. It's mythology. You just don't perceive it to be that way.
Jazz. It's about the notes you don't play. Like I said, this should all be familiar to Jordan Peterson fans. But if the structuralists said the meaning is about the notes you don't play, the post-structuralists said, well, which notes exactly did you not play? And why didn't you play them? If we're talking about the broader ideas that are hanging around in the culture, why are those ideas the ones that are hanging around? What hidden assumptions is the text making? Where do they come from? And whom do they serve? What are you not saying? I love the royal family. I remember...
post-structuralism, which I don't know where it deviates between post-structuralism and postmodernism. But I was reading on it, and it seems like people go from either thinking that, the modernism is blah, 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 and it's bullshit, and, the Enlightenment, shit from the Enlightenment, bullshit, whatever. But then there's also critiques about postmodernism. Like if postmodernism doesn't have a critique as being possibly, not even, I don't know, but it kind of stops progress, right? It stops kind of progressive thinking. That's one of the critiques, that it stops the progression of Enlightenment style science and thinking, when it comes to reason and logic and all of that, using those things to try to have a better understanding of the world. It seems like motherfuckers maybe went too far in the wrong direction, and it seems kind of just like a spicy modernism to me, wherein you realize that there can be no truth with a capital T. Absolute truth. This is the absolute most permeating, most fundamental truth about something ever, right? And it's just like, could you ever really arrive at that level of truth? Postmodernists would say no. maybe some people in science they would say yes, but I think it's just a spicy like that's what I would call it. And that's what I would call well, yeah, that's what I would call it. Sorry, excuse me there.
When Wills and Kate got married, oh, it was so romantic. Everybody was just so happy for them. It was a real coming together moment for the nation. Or almost everybody was happy for them. There were a few killjoys. It seems like there's more and more of them around these days. In the latest one of these awful arson attacks, one of the Union Jack flags outside Buckingham Palace was singed slightly by the sparks that came off the orphanage as it was burning. And I saw some heartless people on Twitter who just didn't care about the flag. And I thought, how can you be so cruel? My brother told me that the fire department wanted to put out the flag, but they were afraid of being called racist. He just happened to be walking past the fire as it was starting. Extraordinary coincidence, I suppose. It's the Queen I feel sorry for. It must have been terribly frightening for her. She's been such a class.
So who is she speaking POV from? The fuckers that would care about like some stupid shit, or like they care about a very specific, because they're looking at it from a very specific point of view. Like they don't even realize the orphanage is on fire, and all they give a fuck about is the flag. I know a lot of people like that.
I know really a lot of people like together. That nowadays. And that's what I love about the royals. They aren't divisive. You don't see them out in the streets making a noise and waving signs around. I hate how this arson crisis has become just another opportunity for polarization. I dread to think how the London mayoral elections are going to play out. I know some people think that the royals are a bit old-fashioned, but I won't apologize for loving them. They're like popcorn or cigarettes. I've given up smoking. I have. But it's hard to resist the temptation. I love the smell. When a man has been smoking and he stands close to you.
I don't like that smell at all. That's a really shitty smell. That's secondhand smoke.
Sometimes you love something.
I hate that shit.
Even though you know that you shouldn't. Alrighty then.
Oh,
so we've got the structuralists who say that meaning is about the notes you don't play, and we've got the post-structuralists who ask, why didn't you play those notes? What Peterson does is he cuts right in the middle there and he says, it's biology. Check this out. If I say, I think that female politician is being overbearing and aggressive in a way that women shouldn't be, then that sounds subjective. Somebody might come back to me and say, well, first of all, I disagree, and second of all, why do you think women shouldn't be aggressive? Where did you get that assumption? Whom does it serve? But if I say, I think that female politician is acting out the Jungian archetype of the devouring mother, which is present in the evolved collective unconscious of humanity, and that sounds objective, doesn't it? Jordan Peterson did say that about former Ontario.
Because, bro, this man Jordan Peterson loves Carl Jung, bro. That's why he takes so much, like obviously he's taking, he's a psychologist, bro. He's working with a lot of Carl Jung work. Carl Jung. How the fuck you say his last name? Jung. I call him Carl Jung.
Premier Kathleen Wynne, and people criticised him for being sexist. And he said, how dare you, I'm not being sexist. I'm just reporting the facts.
She's showcasing an archetype.
To silence objective truth. There's this weird tension in Peterson's work because he's trying to have his cake and eat it. The core of it is subjective phenomenological experience, and then he builds out to a kind of structuralism where he says the world is interpreted through stories that get their meaning from outside the text, but then he just stops. He seems so incurious about who gets to tell stories, whose meanings are allowed to stick and whose are not. And it's maddening, because the ideas he's discussing are really interesting, but it's like he refuses to read any philosophy written after 1967. Peterson has said in the past that
Has any philosophy been written after 1967? Except for post-structuralism and like those texts. What philosophy was written I just haven't gotten to it there. I know there's a ton. I just don't know any myself either.
Ideas he's discussing are really interesting, but it's like he refuses to read any philosophy written after 1967. Peterson has said in the past that post-structuralist philosophers like Jacques Derrida were trying to get rid of the idea of objective truth. They're questioning the idea that a text can have objective meaning. It's this big threat to Western civilization. And some philosophers do question the idea of objective truth. But I think that when people hear that, they go, because what they hear is questioning the idea that I can be right. Questioning the idea that I can win the debate. Fortunately, on this channel, we don't care about being right. Every episode of Philosophy Tube is wrong. In fact, I refuse to be correct. The goal is to be wrong in interesting ways. When philosophers say they are questioning the idea of objective truth, what they mean is there are always some notes that are not being played. And we can get curious about why. Knowledge is always known by some person, and people have their flaws, their blind spots, their financial incentives, their jockeying for position. So what gets called knowledge, and who gets to be seen as a knowledgeable expert, has a kind of social dimension to it. If you wanted to be very inflammatory and provocative, you could say, well, you're denying that there's objective truth, or are you saying there are things that I can't know because I'm white, or whatever. You could spin it that way, but only at the risk of looking like you haven't done the reading.
So is this a critique? I got critique vibes right here. I feel this definitely a critique of Jordan Peterson. And how I think Jordan maybe he maybe thinks too much. Maybe he believes too hard that he knows objective truth. And maybe he's not considering that maybe there's more than just one objective truth. Maybe there are multiple. Maybe his isn't the one. Or maybe he's working off of unobjective truth, written before 1967. I don't know.
Bones and the muscles of Jordan Peterson. Now let's look at the crispy outer shell, the self-help stuff. And if you've gotten a lot of help from Peterson's work, that's really cool. I would never take that away from you. In fact, I think there's some advice in here that's genuinely really good. I particularly enjoyed Chapter 2, Imagine Who You Could Be, then aim single-mindedly at that. I did that ages ago, turned out I'm a woman, 10 out of 10. Beyond Order is basically 12 Rules for Life again, but with the spicier stuff taken out. It's basically just a normal self-help book now. And the advice it gives is sometimes pretty good, but it's fairly standard across the genre. Purely by chance, I came across this blog by Dr. Nerdlove, which contains pretty much the exact same advice, except blogs don't charge you 20 quid to read them. But it's inherent advice, except by Dr. Nerdlove, which contains pretty...
Beyond Order? You're telling me? What's the validity to this claim? I already forgot the name of her. I already forgot her name. What's the validity of this claim here? This is pretty much the exact same advice. How men can stop feeling unwanted. What is Jordan Peterson writing about? Jordan Peterson writing a self-help book for men only? I mean, that's fair. You can make that. There's people who make self-help books for women only. We can have that. A straight cisgender man can be a perverse paradox. Caters to us in almost every way imaginable. We strive towards greater social inequity for people of different genres. Straight cis men are very much at the top of the social heap, and yet men are lonelier and more isolated than ever. I feel that.
Pretty much the exact same advice, except blogs don't charge you 20 quid to read them. But it's inherited some of the problems of the self-help genre as well. For instance, I can't help but notice that if I did everything Peterson suggests, clean my room, take responsibility, yada yada yada, I would still be living in a country where I'm not allowed to get married, start a family, or get healthcare the same way everyone else is. Unfortunately, no amount of self-help is going to fix...
I feel that.
all of your problems. But that's an issue with the whole genre, not just Peterson. The reason I bring it up, though, is it shows us that Peterson's work is aimed at helping a particular kind of self.
I don't want to be breathing.
What we are talking about here is what philosophers call subjectification, and it's famously very simple. To understand it, let's read a passage from philosopher Louis Althusser.
Are you actually going to read it this time? You got the yogurt out.
Okay. Imagine that you are reading the newspaper and you see the headline, "Nation Celebrates Royal Baby." Now that's not quite the same thing as saying lots of people within the nation celebrate the royal baby, is it? Because by saying the nation celebrates, you're subtly implying that anyone who isn't celebrating isn't really part of the nation. That's one of the notes that you're not playing. If you don't feel this way, then you're not really one of us. The celebration and the public declaration of it actually constructs the nation and creates national subjects, hence subjectification. One of the best ways of doing this is to use an emotion. If you just say, everyone in Britain supports the monarchy, then people reject the message. There are millions of us that don't. But by using an emotion, particularly one as powerful as joy about a new baby, you smuggle the real message under the radar. There's a bonus effect as well. Philosopher Sarah Ahmed points out that anyone who doesn't have the emotion they are told to have can be called a killjoy. At best, a national buzzkill. At worst, a national threat. Now,
national threat for not crying over the Queen's baby? My God. That'd be horrible.
People don't always do this deliberately. News editors aren't sitting in smoky rooms going, hee 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 hee, we will use the royal baby story to push the secret mind control. Be careful. It's very easy to slide into conspiracy, in particular anti-Semitic conspiracy theory about Jews running the media. Ideology isn't a conspiracy. Remember we talked about the notes that aren't being played? Well, the point is, we don't realize they're not being played because their absence is assumed to be natural, and we all make those sorts of assumptions, including me. Basically, ideologies are like arseholes. Everyone's got one, we use it every day, but you very rarely look at your own unless something's gone wrong. So let's take a closer look at Jordan Peterson's arsehole.
What?
A lot of Peterson's self-help work is about having the right emotion. In particular, he cautions against acting from resentment, because resentment just makes everything worse. I think this is great advice. I've seen it happen in my professional acting career. People get rejected at
very much
auditions. They take it personally, they get bitter, and then they do get a lead role, and they start acting like, yeah, now I'm Johnny Big Bollocks. And it's like, dude, you are playing Hamlet, but it's a profit share production in the car park of a Toby Carvery in Slough. Stop shouting at the makeup artists. They become bad actors, and nobody wants to work with them. So yes, I agree with Peterson. Sometimes arrogance and resentment, even in the face of genuine injustice, can just make everything worse. However, let's bring in what we just learned about emotions creating subjects. In 12 Rules for Life, Peterson had a bit of a bee in his bonnet about Marxists being fueled by resentment.
Marxists?
This is a very old idea, goes back to the 19th century.
Come on, if it's a self-help book, why is he talking about Marxists?
Fueled by resentment. This is a very old idea, goes back to the 19th century. Socialists don't care about the poor, they just hate the rich. This is a theme that some of Peterson's more conservative fans jumped on. Author Jim Prosser wrote a biography called Savage Messiah, How Jordan Peterson is Saving Western Civilization, which I read with the aid of a large number of painkillers. And almost every other page is Prosser saying Marxists are resentful and spiteful and nasty, and really I think it's cancel culture. I think you're trying to cancel Karl Marx, Jim. Well, some of us believe in free speech, babes. Accusing your enemies of being fueled by resentment is genius, because it's completely bulletproof. A Marxist could say, well, I don't think I am fueled by resentment, actually. And Peterson could say, well, you see, it's unconscious resentment. You can't tell, but I had a dream about Carl Jung, and he told me that you are no good. And it's also completely reversible. You could say, I think Marxists are fueled by resentment. And Marxists could say, well, I think that you're only saying that because you're fueled by resentment. The resentment of Marxists and our long history of very successful podcasts. But the point of accusing your enemies of being fueled by resentment is that it gives you an excuse not to listen to them. Particularly if you dress it up in objective-sounding language about archetypes and the collective unconscious. You construct a community of people, Marxists, feminists, trans people, who are irrational and resentful and hateful, not like us. We are compassionate and thoughtful. And in doing so...
He said that about transgenders? Ain't no way. He didn't say transgenders are... What? Resentful? And hateful? How would a transgender be resentful and hateful? By nature? What? Resentful and hateful of what? Their own gender? What?
We are compassionate and thoughtful. And in doing so, you exclude that group of people from the domain of legitimate political discussion. And there's a word for this. A word for when there are notes that are not being played, whose absence is assumed to be natural, and which help construct a political community through subjectification. And the word is ideology. So it's always good to squat over the mirror and take a good hard look at your own ideology sometimes. 'Cause if you don't do the thinking, someone else will do the thinking for you. Hate
That is true.
can be a powerful emotion. And make no mistake, the people behind these arson attacks, whoever they are, hate Britain. When I was growing up, I was told that Britain is the greatest country in
fuck,
the...
I feel like I'm missing out on these. But they have to do with what she just said. So they have to do with the chapter that's being said. So this chapter, I don't remember what it was called. I remember. Hooked on a Feeling. So she said it was about ideology. So let's see.
The world. We built railways across India. We ended slavery. We civilized the Irish. But now some people
I want Ivan?
want to take that history away from us. The same mentality that drives these arson attacks also drives the anti-fire mob who are tearing down statues and making a noise and enforcing Stalinist fire safety codes and threatening free speech. I love Britain, and I love the values that bind us all together. I believe that we need to defend our values, and that's why I'm proud to support Ivan Schmitz for Mayor of London. Ivan is accustomed to success. He is a businessman, a father, and an entrepreneur in the field of direct petrochemical
success. Accustomed to success? You tell me that, bro, there's no way in hell I'm supporting you. I'm not gonna hold you. Accustomed to success? Then learn how to fuck to fail. Learn how to fail and then come back and talk to me.
He is promising to give our brave police heroes much stronger powers to fight the firebugs and the anti-fire woke brigade. Ivan is the leadership that London needs. He'll keep us safe and sound.
Room filling with
He's
gas.
always taken care of me.
Sexy but unbalanced, the kind of music that overwhelms your senses and prevents you from thinking?
He's the best big brother a girl could ask for.
Like offhand comments that could be innocent or could be flirtatious? Not a cigar? Damn. Whew. He is indoors smoking. Next to a newspaper talking about arsonists. Oh, is that a lighter? Look at this fucking arsonist over here. How dare she? What a fucking arsonist. Unbelievable. Like fire spreading to the walls and curtains? Whoa there! Getting spicy!
This video was sponsored by CuriosityStream. You probably heard of them. They're a subscription streaming service with thousands of titles, little mini documentaries about science and technology and nature and history. If you like my stuff but wish that it had a bit more of a science-y bent, you'll probably find something to tickle your brain there. You could also try watching something and see if you can identify the ideologies at work. I particularly enjoyed this little number called The Imperfect Brain, part of a series called The Curious Mind, about how stress, anxiety, and depression can affect us. Normally, CuriosityStream is $19.99 a year, but if you go to curiositystream.com/philosophytube, then you can get 26% off.
26, that's an odd number.
You'll also get free access to Nebula, which is another streaming service. So hey, double trouble. CuriosityStream don't sponsor any overtly political content. So if you're seeing this, then you know that my video has absolutely no ideology in it. I'll be donating my fee to Sisters Uncut, an organization here in the UK who help fight violence against women. And that decision, too, is completely ideology-free.
Women are being beat in London? Seriously? Ah, man, what women? Why are you beating women? Like, what's the point? Why are you doing that? Good video, man. I fuck with it. Very, very, very deep and philosophical. A lot of stuff there. That was a little complex. You do get a little bit, complex for me. There are even limits that I can't go to. Right? There are even things that they do kind of, they just go over your head a little bit. You got to admit it every now and then. Some shit is just going to go above your head. Okay? Every single time I see in the direction arson stuff is taken, I'm overcome with how perfect it is. Such a smart way to depict the way that white women enable fascism. See, this is what I don't see. I don't ever catch on? Why? I'm super bad with that stuff. Such a smart way to depict the way that white women enable fascism and to continue the arsonist idea and character without having to misgender yourself. Crazy impressive the way that you've taken a practical choice and used it to make smart commentary. What? Something was generally good, but he doesn't really seem to be willing to think more. But he doesn't really seem willing to think more than is sufficient to arrive at the conclusions that he wanted to arrive at in the first place. It's really difficult to see how much we are motivated by feelings and values in our thought processes. Because, of course, how can you not? You act like there's ever a way to get beyond that, to get away from that. I don't think so. I mean, everything's sort of... everybody has an ideology, like she said. It's overbearingly fundamental, and it's there. And it's going to come out when you're Jordan Peterson, who's so smart. He's going to talk with his own agenda, as they call it, but it's like he's good. He's smart. He can back up what he says, right? And it sounds pretty sound. But just because that's the case, don't mean that it's necessarily the truth, the only truth, the whole truth, and all the truth, right? Like, there's more to it than that. Like, can you ever even know how, like, that you've arrived at the truth? That's what postmodernism really has, skepticized about a lot of science processes, right? Like, there's even an organization about ignorance in science, I think, and how they're, I don't know, crack down. I don't even know what the whole purpose of that shit is, but I know they have a Wikipedia page. This is a dangerous aspect of being smart. You can take a conclusion that you want to arrive at and somehow make up a thought process that seems correct, and people will believe you because, well, you're smart. Even better, if what you're saying is something a lot of people want to hear. Yes, and that's absolutely what Jordan Peterson is, right? He's a very traditional guy. He believes in traditional values. He believes in conservatism, I believe. He very much leans towards that side, at least, wherein he has those values, and he may not be fully able to see his own asshole. He might not fully be able to see how much his own values are sort of influencing the direction that he takes his knowledge, and like what the message he's really trying to convey and what he's really getting at, and but I mean, he obviously, when you do that, when you don't cater, and you definitely go very, it's a very common thing. Like, you don't cater, and you don't try to be as politically correct to as many people. When you actually very much polarize, you become very popular. It's a real thing. If you can polarize, then you'll get all of the people that believe the same shit that you do, that they're just gonna latch on, right? They latch on to you. Makes you very popular when you're not trying to just appease everybody. For some reason, that's very attractive, I think, to a lot of people. And I guess, yeah, that's that, right? I guess that's that. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys wanted me to react to next. Maybe I made it too long. I don't know, man. Video is 35, though. Video is 35. Okay, let me know what you guys think. Leave a like, maybe. Leave a sub. Let me know if you guys caught on to something that I didn't. I know what the whole... When she popped up the newspaper thing and she was reading it, I know it was supposed to be like an allegory for something. Like a satire, or like... What do you call it? An analogy, a metaphor for something. And I kind of didn't know exactly what that was, which just goes to show... A lot of what was said kind of did go over my head a little bit, but I understood a good amount of it, I'd say. I would think so, at least. I mean, I sure hope I did. I don't want to feel that stupid, but yeah, I mean, it is very ideologically charged, I guess you could say, right? A lot of about what he says. I mean, he is right, but at the end of the day, what is being right? Like, he is right in one sense, in one aspect of it, but is that the only right aspect that there is? Right? Like, he's right in one aspect, and it just so it turns out that aspect can very much back up his own personal ideology and agenda. However, is that the only way that it could go? Is that the only truth? That the whole truth, and the truth as it, like, no, I don't know. It's not, right? That's the whole point. It's not. It's just not. And that's interesting. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Okay? Catch me